this is one of my favorite non like actually music thing to come do with regarding Moony. Even though I do play like music at one point. I'm just saying like this. I love doing this.
Dude,
I hope.
Thank you.
We love having you.
I hope wherever I go, this can be a consistent thing.
Oh yeah.
If you guys are still doing it,
this
I'm
is just
still
forever
here.
now. We just every few months we just meet up with Moony
Yeah.
and just figure shit
Well, I
out.
texted Ryan and was like, I have so much to say if you want to hear it. Just because I feel like there was the start of like eras that I've come on here right as like a new era was ending and beginning.
Yeah.
And that's kind of happening. So
That's perfect.
I don't know.
So we're already rolling. I'm just gonna roll with it because that was a great intro. That was a great intro. So
Did you get the mythical beast part?
maybe
I don't know.
Okay, well, if you're a mythical beast, everyone in this room is, and you're safe here.
So, okay, here's where I wanted to start. So, you sent me the new album today, started listening through, and from the top, first song is Calling All Animals. Are there, yep, I knew it. Lots of exclamation points after that.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Can you guess how many?
9?
9.
Yeah.
So, from the second I see this, Wesley, you can, if you're on my camera, you can see the art maybe, if you zoom.
We can also bring it up the screen probably.
It's, the art, right, we'll get to the art, but it's like, very striking. And I start listening to this Call All the Animals with 9 exclamation points. And right away, here's my first intro thought listening through 30 seconds into the song. I'm like, this is fucking epic and the whole world needs to know this music. In fact, this is kind of my like following along with your like from your Instagram and from your music. I feel like you have all the signs of like a fucking epic artist.
Corinne said that. My wife said that. So last week, I thought you were on last week. I had the schedule mixed up. So on the drive here, I was listening to you because I always listen to whoever's going to be on the show. And so I was listening to you, and my wife literally said that. She was like, I feel like everybody should hear this guy. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. Because she doesn't know you.
Oh, that's sweet.
Like, to elaborate on that more, what I kind of mean, like, when you look at, if I look at like what you're putting out on Instagram and Spotify and everything else, compared to like numbers, it's like the shit that you're putting out looks like it may as well be like Billie Eilish or like the most known artist in terms of like quality of like artistic, like cohesion of the vision, like how good the quality is. And I know some of that has to do with Luke. It's Luke, right? Like just how good the fucking art looks combined with the music. But just listening to Calling All Animals, I'm like, it's so like dramatic and like not only, I keep using the word cohesive because it is, but it's beyond just that it's cohesive. Because like you could have something that's shitty and cohesive, like just like shit with shit with shit. Like,
Yes.
does it have nuts? Does it not? You know, it's all cohesive. No, like it's cohesive, but it is an artistic vision. And I feel like that's what's rare. Because there's like a lot of artists that have like 1 billion streams and you're like, is this art? Not really. Like it's a song that kind of caught on. But I'm like listening to that song, I'm like, this is fucking art. This is like good enough that I'm just like, oh yeah, if enough people hear this, that audience is there. And yeah.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Did you have a question
end
to
of
follow
show.
up with that? Yeah.
No, I had no
thanks for having
question.
me.
You just wanted to be like, you're great, man. And then no question. Come on, Ryan, give me a question.
You're great.
Yeah.
There's
so
the
do
door.
you agree? No, just kidding.
Do you agree?
No, I just wanted to start there because we wanted
it's
to
a good
talk
place,
about the new
yeah.
album. But I'm just like from the like track 1, I feel like you made a good decision with where you started with
Yeah.
because I'm like, this is a statement. Maybe we could talk about the art to start it off.
Yeah.
The fuck? What is this?
Yeah.
It's like for people who can't see, who don't watch the show but listen to the show. It's like I feel like immediately I get Matrix energy.
Okay. Yeah,
You're
I want
like-
to hear this, what you think.
I see like you naked with an umbilical cord in a Matrix style pod, but it's also forest like, and there's like a plant coming off of your hand. What do you see, Jerry? Do you see the Matrix?
I do see what you mean with like the pods that they wake up on attached to the things. But it definitely more. I mean, I guess the Matrix also felt the same way, but it's definitely like being born vibe. Like definitely a birth vibe there, coming out of a canal.
Yeah.
You know, attached, obviously, right? Oh, but there's something else there. Oh, I like it. I'm glad that you zoomed in
trees.
because I couldn't see some of the. No, the hand.
The hand.
Oh, that's your hand.
Is this
That's
Never
my
mind.
hand.
That's your
AI
hand.
art?
It's completely fake, everyone. I don't use any real pic. No, I'm just kidding. No, it is a blend of real and Photoshop.
Yeah, it doesn't look like AR. If you look at a lot of AR, it always you can almost always tell because you're like, it just doesn't feel right.
You're like,
It looks
they
messy.
have 4 fingers.
It's just like slightly
always zoom
off.
into the fingers and you'll know.
Yeah, big uncanny valley vibes with AR.
Yeah, I like y'all's well, that was your visual interpretation. What do you feel like the metaphorical interpretation could mean? I know you haven't listened all the way through, but just gut, just like, oh, what is this saying? I'm curious.
like-
There's no wrong answers.
Okay. Partially this is based on like previous conversations,
Totally.
but like it feels like you're being born in this new world.
Yeah, it's like a seramorphosis.
Ooh, what's a seramorphosis?
You know, like when a moth
morph into a
becomes
Sarah.
butterfly. Like when a moth becomes a butterfly, it goes seramorphous, or a moth
Why is that not metamorphosis?
Caterpillar.
Is that not metamorphosis?
No.
Are
Yeah,
you saying
If it
like,
happens inside of a thing, I think it's seramorphosis, right?
Oh, I don't know. I've
Maybe
never
I'm
heard
wrong.
that word.
Wesley, can
Never
you
heard
check
of
me on that,
seramorphosis.
or bring up the definition of seramorphosis, and I might just be wrong.
Oh.
Michael
this.
Seramorphosis.
Like a serapod is someone that transforms inside
Which is
Yeah.
worthy
shell,
of a great
right? And
tangent.
they go through seramorphosis.
Did you ever follow the Facebook that was like a new or the same picture of Michael Cera every day?
Still follow it.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It was the greatest thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm literally just stealing a fake word from Baldur's Gate. That means seems the same thing.
Well, yes,
Literally, I'm grabbing a
Yes.
fake Dungeons and Dragons word
Hey.
and making it real life.
Yeah, before we started rolling, we
Metamorphosis
were
is-
having a nice Dungeons and Dragons conversation,
you
so it makes
alive?
sense why you were thinking that way.
A Liliathid tadpole?
Illithid?
Illithid.
Yeah, so what I was actually going for was an illithid tadpole for the artwork, and people that get it will get it. So I'm really looking for a specific audience here. with my music.
All right, well,
Now,
metamorphosis then.
I will add, and I'm either going to be like on the money or just like grotesque, but it looks, the thing you're being born in looks a little vaginal.
Yeah,
Okay.
I said a canal.
Yeah.
I was,
Hey.
I was being polite about it.
Yeah.
Right?
So about a year ago at this point, I had the idea, Moony in Mother Earth's vagina.
Sure.
And I was in process of writing all these songs, creating kind of the visual identity and world with it, at least dreaming it up, and knew that it all kind of wrapped up together, ended and began in the center of it all, which, if we're talking metaphorically, could be the vagina of Mother Earth, where everything begins and maybe ends as well. So yes, it's absolutely a vagina, and I'm absolutely inside of it. But there's also like it could be me being
Said like the number one player.
exactly. It could be me being birthed into it or out of it. It could be me being suspended in it. There are multiple interpretations you can have, but I mean, straight up, it's just Moony and Mother Earth's vagina.
Dang. Okay, so I don't feel weird about going out on a limb about the vagina.
No,
It's right.
don't feel weird at all. I feel like whenever I first saw it, after we shot it and it was fully edited, Samuel Greenhill, incredible photographer and just visual artist, created that. And I feel like it's the second I saw it, I was like, this is going to be so obvious. And then I feel like people that have seen it have kind of danced around wanting to say that that's what it is, because you don't want to assume and then be like, oh man, I didn't try to do that.
Right.
Exactly.
But I definitely tried to do it. So
To be clear.
yeah, because
very
there are
intentional.
in the record, there are a lot of themes of birth, rebirth, a lot of sexual themes, almost in like non-sexual ways and more like biological ways, if that makes sense. But then there's a lot of themes of like purity culture and kind of what that does to people that have been in it and come out of it. So I wanted
let's
to
go.
like
Not anything
include
good.
this stark imagery of like, this is making a statement. Like this is provocative, not just because it's I'm naked, but because it's like I want to provoke a idea and a thought that you have to sit with for a second before you just scroll past it.
Yeah, and I think that's something that like a lot of the art side or the visual aesthetic you put out around Moony like does really well. Is like it's stark. It's almost one adjective I was thinking about earlier today was like it's almost dangerous. Like the whole aesthetic of Moony. Maybe not the early eras of Moony. Actually, it's you think of Moony and Friends, not dangerous, soft,
Yeah.
friendly, and friends.
Yeah.
But the current era of Moony is like dangerous. It's like seditious. I feel like your biographers will say.
Yeah.
It's like it's like Bowie or things like that. People like that, where it's kind of like, whoa, this is kind of edgy. I don't know what to think.
Yeah, I think there's this part of me that's wanting to always one up myself and what I've done. Sorry, this recess is making me burp a lot. Recess, drink your cum. I'm wanting to create things that I personally have never created myself. I don't think what I'm doing is like revolutionary and never been done, but I think for what I have created up to this point, being 1 decade into creating music as art, I have never done or seen XYZ. And right now I'm in this like, it feels a little less visceral and intense than where we were with Podunk, but there is sort of this mystery, dark fantasy lure to it all that feels a little uneasy. And I hope that people feel that me within that world feels equally uneasy, because that's a lot of what these songs on this album are kind of exploring, is like if Podunk was this magnifying glass to a specific situation, dealing with like faith and family and my place in the world and what does it all mean and where am I and who am I, Warning High Cube is like, let's pull the magnifying glass back and say where I am and talk about where I am and like with more confidence be like, I think this is what it all means and this is my place in the world. And alongside of that comes a lot of joy, and alongside of that comes a lot of anxiety. And I feel like that joy and anxiety is really laced in every song in this record. Like Calling All Animals starts with this beautiful kind of dueling mandolin and acoustic guitar and with strings supporting it, and then just smacks you in the face with these massive rock guitars and drums. And that's that kind of duality you feel throughout the record of like, I'm going to celebrate where I am, but I'm also going to question it because I hope where I am is okay.
Just let that linger. Honestly, like, write that down as a possible episode title. It's a good, although I've kind of shifted how I'm doing titles now. But
what part?
I hope that where I am now is okay, or however you said it.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's deep. That's a good quote. I think there's a lot of.
Pretty sure the title is Mother Earth's Vagina.
Hey, please, if you want the clicks, call it that. Okay.
I feel like there's a lot of honesty in that statement because I think like obviously there's a lot of people that are like, where I'm at's the best. And then there's plenty of people who are like, where I'm at sucks and is terrible and I hate where I'm at. I think there's like, it's a very interesting and honest statement to say like, I hope where I'm at's okay.
Yeah.
Because where you're at, you're like, obviously you're it feels to me like you're at where you're at. The more I say it, the more it stops sounding like English. But you are where you are by choice. And it's like so that means on some level you're going, I like this, or I think this is right, or I think this is good.
Right.
This is where I want to be.
Or the flip side of it could be, or I made the wrong choices and I don't want to be here.
True, but
Totally.
But for you to say, I hope where I'm at is okay.
Yeah, it's a positive spin for sure.
Yeah, you're like, there's an honesty with that of both going, I think where I'm at is okay.
Yeah.
But also questioning it. I don't know. I think it stuck out to me.
Cool. Yeah, I feel like this is really the most in my life I've ever cared about being as absolutely healthy as I can possibly be, which seeps into so many decisions, and so much of my just like everyday mindfulness and consciousness is like, maybe it's like the great blessing or the great curse of my existence is like filtering everything through this. Well, like, is that going to be good for me or not? Just because I don't want to like make the same mistakes that I've made before. So yeah, I feel like this is the year of, I turned 28 at the beginning of this year, and my joke to my wife was, 28 hits different. That's my motto of the year. This year's going to hit different. And I kind of said that with like I mean, hits different is just like a quirky, trendy term right now.
Yeah.
And so far, y'all, it's hit pretty different, and mostly in bad ways. And that meaning just like this door of like, and I'm happy to talk about it on this podcast, this door of just like anxiety, kind of flinging open to a degree that it hadn't previously. This record was written right after I feel like I dealt with true anxiety for the first time in my life. True meaning like, I feel like I couldn't really empathize or relate to people throughout my life being like, I deal with anxiety, or like clinically diagnosed anxiety or non-clinically diagnosed anxiety. And 2 years ago, I was like, after a series of events, I feel like I was suddenly super anxious all the time and could very much empathize. It was like, this is what they meant when they said this. And like the people in my life, in the world that deal with this thing that I feel like it was like water off a duck's back before for me. Like nothing could really affect me. Not that nothing affected me. Not that I was some like psychopath with no emotions or empathy, but just like I was not consciously, actively dealing with this like battle with anxiety. And then I started dealing with some of that after some things happened, one of which was a fucking crazy mushroom trip that was wild and kind of flung some things open in my mind and body that lingered afterwards after having a couple really, really good mushroom trips. No cops on this podcast listening. Get off right now. I didn't do any shrooms.
We're in Colorado.
I mean like Portobello.
If you're listening and you're a cop, you have to tell us.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of like, I'm not blaming me having this bad trip on like, that's the reason suddenly I started getting really anxious.
It wasn't like a trigger necessarily.
It was just like it unlocked some things that I realized I hadn't been dealing with for years up to that point that kind of got unearthed within this.
Is it just
4
like
hour
open you
time.
up to old memories or something, or what? Like,
It's hard to really.
I never done the shrooms, so I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm not saying people shouldn't. Honestly, I had some really great, meaningful experiences before this one, but I haven't done it since, and I really don't have a desire, mostly because I'm scared shitless to do it again, but also because I genuinely don't feel like I need that in my life right now, even if I were to have a good experience. Like if I wasn't scared, I just don't feel like I right now would need or desire that. It was more so this like, I felt what it felt like to genuinely feel like there was no escape from spiraling down into this like really negative, dark mindset or like thought pattern. It just like grasped me and pulled me under for these like 3 hours that I was feeling like I was dying, basically. My mind was going to the darkest places. Unfortunately, that week I had watched for the first time back to back Midsummer and Hereditary.
Oh no.
And my brain decided it was going to go there during a lot of this. God. And I love those movies. And I've watched them since, and they're not triggering, thankfully. And they're
Wait,
beautiful.
Midsommar and what was the other one?
Lots of weird ways movies.
Dude, both of those movies freaked me the fuck out.
Oh, yeah,
I never want to see either of them again.
They're really messed up.
Midsommar, I had some Delta 8.
Oh, fuck.
And
Dude.
that wasn't great.
Yeah, so unfortunately during this shroom trip, I was like, my brain was going to really dark places that absolutely were subconsciously influenced by those very terrifying movies.
Yeah.
Which made it just feel so real.
Which, like, one of the things that I think is a hallmark of those movies is, like, older, not very attractive, naked people acting creepy. Like, that's kind of like the core of that guy's horror style.
That's funny.
Like, fucking weird-looking naked people, like,
there
crawling around in odd ways.
Wacky scenes.
Writhing even?
Yeah.
Writhing. Yeah, and that's a great description.
But so during this, it's funny that I'm like getting into this right now. During this bad trip, where my brain also was going was 2 years before this had happened. I had a really bad just edible experience that was actually scarier than this one that I'm right now explaining, because it was my first time ever eating an edible, and I took 20 milligrams. And that's way too much you should take for the first time ever. Mm-hmm. And I had just like a wild, like borderline suicidal trip. Like it was crazy. It was very, 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 very scary.
Did you like smoke weed before that or anything? I know it's processed differently.
No, I hadn't done anything up until then. I'd only
as far as substances
go,
0 to 20 is a lot.
As far as substances go, I'd only drank alcohol, and that, being as scary as it was, kind of like set me on this trajectory of just like, I'm going to take care of my body and my mind as much as I possibly can, because I know like the depths of where it can go after never experiencing that before. But it didn't really fling open this like anxiety door like I was referring to before. It just kind of set me on this really positive journey. My first EP came out of that. The song Healthy from my first EP is all about that experience. So then fast forward 2 years, I'm having this really bad, this time a mushroom-induced panic attack, and my body and my mind had experienced something similar 2 years before. So I knew I wasn't really actually dying this time, and I knew I was going to get through it. So it was a little bit less scary, but there was something, I can't really explain it, but like after I got through that experience, which I got through perfectly fine and perfectly healthy. If this is scaring you to do shrooms, sure, whatever. But also there's really good things that can come out of it.
But also, like, you're not required to do shrooms if you don't want to.
Not required to. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely not. But there was something that just felt like this like fear lingered in a way that it didn't after my like edible trip. This fear of like, I don't think I'm as strong as I think I am. And meaning I can't like withstand anything. I can withstand things. I can't withstand everything.
Yeah, sure.
Like my mind feels a little more fragile than I thought maybe it was. And that's what I wrote this whole album. Like in that really kind of like, I feel a little bit fragile for the first time in my life. And like nervous about existence. And these songs just started pouring out of me that kind of deal with that in different ways. And then the title track, Warning High Cube, kind of starts with this lyric that I think I might have even shared at the end of the last podcast talking about what's coming next. But this was kind of the thesis statement of this record, which is the lyric that says, sorry, I keep burping. It says, sorry, I keep burping. And it really has to do with all this mental health stuff that I'm talking about. No. It says, there's a thin film on life. Peel it off and you might find that the world you see is a fragile thing, but it's only in your mind. Oh my God, it's way too heavy. Crawl back in my mama's belly. Sink into the earth, I'm ready. Flesh and bone are so unsteady. And it's just saying,
remember you sharing that.
Yeah. It's like, whoa, this thin film just got peeled off after this shroom trip that I don't think it was because, like I said, because I did shrooms that suddenly I'm dealing with anxiety. I think it just opened up this, the reality of like, we're all a little fragile as human beings, and I'm like part of that. And now I have to like deal with that face to face. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, if you guys have ever dealt with or experienced anxiety, or anyone listening, there's parts of it that are like hard to verbally just like process and explain, but like when you feel it and are in it, you feel so like claustrophobic and like you're sinking into this infinite void of nothing. And then when you're out of it, not dealing with it, you're like, oh, I can't relate to that person. I can't relate to that feeling. I can't like even muster myself back into that place and feeling. And I've now, since then, I've been dealing with these moments where I'm like suddenly back in that infinite void, falling into the chasm of like, oh dear God, what is happening? Where am I going with my life? And what is the meaning of it all? And then on the flip side of that, like life is more beautiful than ever before.
Yeah, I can relate a little bit to your anxiety experience. So I kind of like you. Never something I dealt with. I was never an issue. It was literally just roll off my back. I don't understand why people are anxious about things until I got COVID, and I lost my taste for like 2 years, like a whole thing. And ever since then, I've had more anxiety, and I don't know. I'm like, it's weird. It's weird. It's not something I've ever had before. And now, like over the last couple of years, like I'll get like a weird social anxiety, which I never had. I was always great in like a group. Now you like, if I'm around too many people for too long, I start to feel weird. I'm like, I gotta get out of here. Vibes. But it's never something I had before. And I never understood when anybody else would tell me they have anxiety about things. So I'm like, man, just care less. I don't know what to tell you. Like, what do you mean? But now that I feel it, I'm like, oh, that's what that is. That sucks.
And I don't know if you're anything like me in that when I started to identify this might be anxiety and I have to deal with this now, and like it's there and it's not necessarily going to just disappear one day. There's this side of me that's like, that was never supposed to be me. I was not supposed to be the person that dealt with this. Like,
oh, that's interesting.
And there's almost this, this like, let me take apart the Lego set that I've built and find which piece I put in there along the way that made me now feel this. Like almost feeling like I messed up and I'm wrong because
let's backtrack and fix that.
When that's not how it works, and that's not true, and that's not the way life happens. It's just like we all deal with things, and some people don't have to deal with those things, but they deal with other things that are hard, and it's just like, it's just part of life. I know that sounds so cheesy, but that's really what I'm trying to rest with and be okay with. And this record being written kind of within a year after that experience helped a lot and was very healing in a lot of ways. And even now I feel there's been like kind of this now adjacent stream of a different type of anxiety now that I feel like when I was saying 28 hits different, 28 and this year being difficult in a lot of ways is this more like physical, like sick anxiety that I've been dealing with since the start of the year that manifests in a lot of like nausea and lightheadedness and dizziness that like takes me out for a day if I start to feel it. And so that's what I mean when I say this year's been harder than ever, is that I felt a little more sick than ever before. And I mean like physically sick. And that has like amplified some of the other anxiety stuff that I've been talking about. But I'm doing a lot of things to combat that and like really work on myself and realize the power of like body, mind, and spirit, and how those three they should grow in tandem. And if I prioritize one or two over the other or neglect one, my system, like my physiological system, will start to fail in some ways. And I think I've been a little physiologically out of balance this year and am on the up.
No.
Sorry, but I just like really opened up to you guys.
No, that's great.
I hope that anyone listening, if you can relate in any way, I hope that
Most
helps.
people
I
that
don't
listen
know.
to the show are human, and so I bet they can.
Yeah.
What?
But you'd mentioned before the show that you weren't drinking right now. Is that along these same reasons,
So
these same
yes,
lines?
yeah, it's actually pretty crazy. On New Year's Day, I woke up after a night of partying, New Year's Eve, and I've been hungover.
Being your anniversary.
Yeah, it was also my anniversary. I've been hungover, obviously, in my life, and obviously,
What?
yeah. Whoa, I party. No, I actually really don't party
Dude,
much, but I've
Mooney parties and he fucking gets in that vagina.
and he does shrooms. Y'all, I'm crazy. I woke up after a night of drinking, and it was a different kind of hangover, y'all. And I ended up having to go to the ER because I
Oh, wow.
threw up so much that I got really dehydrated. It turned out that it was like, it wasn't
Fucking fentanyl
because
in
I-
the alcohol.
well, I didn't know what was happening, but I was like, I felt like I was dying. Had to go to the ER, and I ended up being okay after they gave me liquid IV, and it wasn't so I had 5 drinks over the course of like 5 hours.
That's
so
not
it
crazy.
wasn't
Yeah.
that I like overdrank and then suddenly was like alcohol poisoning. It was some sort of weird like flare up reaction to something I ate or drank that night, according to the doctor. And since then, there's been a couple times after having hard liquor, and I think it might be whiskey that I've felt really, really bad the next day, like more bad than I should feel. So I've been avoiding that, and then just alcohol in general, just to not even risk it. Because when I start to feel nauseous since that ER experience, it like really sets in this like panic.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Huh. I wonder what it is. Like, I mean, have you gone through like all the things you've ate and drank that night? Like,
I have.
Tested them
I
out.
have.
kind of
And
thing?
like,
it's just whiskey. It seems.
it seems like it. I don't know. It's like, it's almost like if I start to feel, there's kind of the line between buzzed and then into tipsy. And like,
Right.
if I let myself get to the tipsy line, it just like the next day, I'm just so incredibly sick. Like, so like have to throw up and am bedridden. Like shouldn't be that way based on
Wild,
the
yeah.
amount I've drank the night before. So I don't know. Maybe my body's just telling me it needs to reject some of that right now, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't need
I have
that.
a buddy who experiences something kind of like that with alcohol, but he has an actual allergy. He's an alcohol allergy.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if like
Maybe
there's
you developed
something
it,
because
'cause
I've
he
also
developed it over time.
It seems like it. That's why I was saying it seems like it's hard liquor because I haven't experienced that when I've had beer a couple times. But even so, I've just been like avoiding it in general.
Yeah.
And feel great about that. But I do know that there are other things that if anything makes me nauseous right now, it starts to make me a little anxious. So like I overate the other day. I just like ate too fast and started getting nauseous, and that like set me out. It was after my New York show. If anyone was at that show or keeping up with that show happening, as soon as that show ended, the rest of the night was terrible, but the show was awesome. But yeah, it's these like mental and physical things that suddenly I'm like going through right now this year that
Like
I've
all at
never
once.
really had to go through, and it can be scary, but I know I'll be okay.
Yeah. Well, there's like an interesting like chicken or the egg or before the egg, whatever
Yeah.
problem.
Chicken or the egg?
Like, did the mushrooms open you to like something? Did it do something negative to you that's like making you feel this negative way? Or did it like remove like some sort of false confidence that you had, and now you're
Peel
like,
back that
Yeah.
barrier.
Yeah,
Like you're saying,
the
the
thin film.
right?
and so now you're like, are you seeing things more like how they are now, and you weren't ready to cope with how they
Yeah.
are because you had some like shit that was protecting you,
Yeah.
and you kind of like ripped the Band-Aid off? Or are you seeing things when you're more in your anxious place? Are you seeing things like worse than they are?
Yeah,
It's
and
an interesting question.
absolutely. And I think those are things I've been dealing with in therapy, and wrestling with in my own time as well. And I think it's maybe a combination of both, but I think it's more so just like I was putting off and not dealing with a lot of these things that now I see things for how they are a little more and am learning to live with the weight of how they are. But I think it wasn't, when I say like the mushroom trip played a huge part in it, but it wasn't like solely that made all this start to happen. It was a perfect storm of all these different factors in my life that kind of coincided at the same time in 2022 when this happened, and then like dealt with a lot of that. And now here we are 2 years later, and like another wave is kind of coinciding at once. And it just happens to be like right when I'm turned 28 and also right around whenever I like got rushed to the ER. Right. And so there's, I don't think we can point to one thing and be like, there's this that's going on. And, once you deal with that, you're going to be A-okay. I think it's like, I am just like we all are, a complex, multi-layered human, and like things go out of check without me noticing and realizing it. And then they come to a head and come out in some way. And maybe that way is addiction. Maybe that way is, neglect or pride or gripping too hard onto the things that you shouldn't care as much about. Maybe it's in anxiety. Maybe it's in depression. There's ways that it comes out of us, like this energy that we leave unchecked. And I think I'm learning now these things that I didn't even know I was leaving unchecked. And it's that like multiple mind, body, spirit kind of growth together that I am like rebalancing.
Well, I just keep thinking, and this kind of like comes back to the art a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. I got a specific shroom-based question.
Oh yeah.
If you're gonna start swapping it away.
No, this is I'm on the same topic.
Okay. Go ahead then. Go ahead.
Save the cup. We'll come back to shrooms.
It's not a practical question.
No. I'm just wondering like what it is about human life that it seems like what you're talking about is like very common, or at least a very shared human experience.
Yeah.
That when you're young, like we are like so hardened, like the cicadas.
Yeah.
Remember when they climbed up on everything, the little hard shell dudes?
Yeah, the juveniles, yeah.
The little juveniles? Yeah. They'll climb on everything and they're there and they're little hard shell things and they come out and it's like a ugly ass butterfly now.
Yeah.
But when we're young, we're like hardened to all of the traumas of life and the things going around. My parents got divorced when I was like 5 or 6. When I was all the way through, probably at least 18 or 19, that's just a fact of your life and a thing that happened. And there's details surrounding that are really challenging and lots of different life situations I had when I was young. All of those, like you said, like came off my back, or washed, like hardly hit me. And I'm like, I'm a happy kid. This is fine. Well, and sometimes maybe you're sad, maybe you acknowledge some of those things. But like when it comes to, I feel like it was like about 18, 19 that I started experiencing some more like sadness about my childhood and a feeling of like, oh, I might be missing some things. Yeah. But like I went through, however many 15 years where I was just like, I'm just as fine as anybody else. So what I'm trying to get to is it's almost like when you're young, you have this like hard shell on you. And, I'm sure all three of us, I don't know your story as well as I know your story and my own story, but I know like we all, and Wesley's story, but we all have like hard shit that happened to us. Yeah. But like for some reason when you're a kid, it's just like, they always say kids are so resilient. It's like all, coming right off. It's not getting through your hard shell. And as you get older, some of that, it's like life at some point like blossoms and goes like, all right, you're ready to deal with this stuff. Like, you know how you thought it wasn't affecting you and you were fine?
Yeah.
you're not fine.
Fuck you.
It actually was affecting you, but now
Yeah.
you're ready to do something about it. And like,
Yeah.
and here's the roadmap for the rest of your life. You're going to have to actually do something with that. And
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually almost exactly what I was going to ask. But but with one extra
With a
twist on it.
with a shroom twist.
Let me add a little twist
Yeah,
onto
please.
that.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. But do you think, because you talked about like this thin film that got peeled back?
Yeah.
Do you think that was something that was like would have happened anyways eventually? Like you would have gotten to that place, or did the bad trip trigger that to happen, or accelerate it maybe, and it would have happened eventually anyways? Or if it had never happened, would you have never gotten to this place and that would have also been fine?
I think, I am where I am, and it's wasting time to think about if it could have been different. But I think that I would have gotten here regardless of if that shroom trip happened or not.
Right.
Um,
Just gave you a little acceleration.
yeah, maybe it accelerated it. Maybe I would be exactly where I am regardless at this point in time. Like I said, I think it was a perfect storm, and like any other thing could have set off that storm. It just happened to be that. But I don't know. I don't like to think that often about like, oh, if I did this, I could be here now, or I wouldn't be here now, because that's the thought pattern that can like start to send me into this like, where's the Lego piece that I need to pull out, like I was talking about before.
yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Either way, I do think it seems like at some point in time, like you were saying, it comes to like a head.
Mm-hmm.
Like at some point in time, you either are thrust into dealing with all the things of your past
Yeah.
and all the loose ends and not nice things that happened
Yeah.
and all of those different things. You are either thrust into dealing with that shit, or you bury your head in the sand and you never do, and you're a TikTok influencer.
Yeah.
And it's like, those are the
Yeah.
two choices in life. And you're either like, it's like everybody's on this hard journey of life and is dealing with weird, crazy shit and all sorts of things. Whether it happened to you or it's thoughts you had, it's your insecurities about life. And like we all start sort of hard shelled to these things. But as you come into your 30s, it seems like for most people, it's like you are now like, you're out of that hard shell and you're like reborn in a way. And it's like, oh no, you got some shit to deal with, kid. And
Yeah.
you will deal with it, or you put your head in the sand for the rest of your life and you're like, Trump 2024. And like, those are your options.
Yeah. Or yeah, totally. And I think I see a lot of people that never have to deal or experience this because their community and their culture makes it to where they don't even have to think about these things or ask these types of questions. And I think a huge part of me, I don't want to say having to, I want to say getting to deal with this now and experience life for what I feel like is a more authentic, genuine, true to the human experience, in the sense of like, I'm getting to like suffer with humanity now. Almost. I'm like, I want to tread lightly over that phrase, but like, I'm dealing with this type of suffering that I didn't think was possible for me to deal with. Not that it's like, oh, I'm suffering. There's people that suffer way more than me, obviously.
Yeah, but it's all relative, right? The worst thing that's ever happened to you is the worst thing that's ever happened to you.
If honestly, like if I was still leading worship in church and totally committed to that and that community and that lifestyle, I wonder if I would be dealing with this right now. But I also wonder what I could have been, what I might have lost out on. And so it's another one of those things of like, if I think too much about this, it can fuck me up. Yeah. And I don't want that to be the case. And I'm like dealing with that head on right now. If like, life is beautiful and nuanced and complicated. And there's a part of me right now knowing that like I'm on a podcast being recorded, being filmed, that wants to be like, all this being said, like I'm doing good and like life's going well. Because that is the case. Like I am doing so well in so many ways, and like career stuff's going great, and socially and family wise, just things are going great. But like that's not what this is about. I'm I don't want to like say that as the like cherry on top at the end of all this to make people just think, okay, good, he's good. Because I think that's what we tend to do as people. Yeah, I'm doing good, but also it's fucking hard a lot of the time, and that's okay. And I can like sit with that and not feel shame or embarrassment of that. So yeah, maybe the next time I'm on this, I will be like, I can't relate to that guy and what he was saying.
But that's
right
okay.
now,
That's how it should be.
That's how life
right?
is.
Life moves forward.
Yeah, exactly.
None of us have a time machine.
Yeah, and I will say, in the
Yet.
last 2 years, just my appreciation for other people's art and what they're trying to do with it. I feel like I understand certain nuances in certain artistic expressions differently than I used to. Meaning, like there's a few films I've seen in the last year that just like hit me so deep. And I'm like, oh, he's able to express that thought and idea about the human condition in a specific way because he probably experienced that himself. And I can see that. I can like look into Paul Thomas Anderson's eyes through this character that he wrote and directed into existence and like witness this thing about the human condition that I would have totally missed and it would have gone over my head had I not experienced some of these things for myself. And it's in moments like that where I'm like so fascinated by what I'm going through right now and have to write music and write stories about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I wrote an album called Warning High Cube.
Speaking of, maybe we should play the first song.
True, it has been a while.
You may recall we usually do that about 10 minutes in.
Hey,
But we just hit hard tonight.
Yeah, that's good. I like it. I dig it. But what is the first song we're going to be hearing?
Yeah, I'm going to play Tyranny of Certainty. It's the third song on my album. And yeah, both of the songs I'm going to play are just like the version of it that you would have heard when I was writing it for the first time in my room. So this is Tyranny of Certainty.
I think I know you to a T. That's the tyranny of certainty. Stop thinking I figured out the rest. Dumb down denomination. Resume. Corey and I talking about death. That's what I do to keep my brain fresh. My friends and I a group think tank. None of us think straight. Oh, my house is on fire and I'm some kind of poltergeist. I didn't pray this time with the kingdom mindset. I can fly through the walls to the basement. Whoa, I'm wasting my time looking for something to put it out. I can pick things up, a religious ghost. That's the tyranny of any certainty. Stop. You're sucking off all the good stuff. Unsupervised kid in a candy shop. Come pick your poison in the basement. Why don't you face me? Oh, my house is on fire and I'm some kind of poltergeist. I didn't pray this time with the kingdom mindset. I can fly through the walls to the basement. Oh, I'm wasting my time looking for something to put it out. I can pick things up, a religious ghost. That's the tyranny. You look different and you ease my mind. I'm happy again. It's like none of this will please my mom, but but I've already said that. Carissa in love with an idea taught me to tread light. I bet it plays a role in everything. How can you ever really know? Whoa, whoa, my house is on fire and I'm some kind of poltergeist. I didn't pray this time with the kingdom mindset. I can fly through the walls to the basement. I'm wasting my time looking for something to put it out. I can pick things up, a religious ghost. That's the tyranny of any certainty.
The mic fell over right as I was singing that last note. But it stemmed from a conversation that I had with my friend Corey at a coffee shop about how it can be dangerous to be too certain about anything in life because there's so many different viewpoints you can look at things at, which is why we live in a very divided world, unfortunately, but also hopefully can see past those differences and be united. So that song specifically is just talking about how I don't relate in so many ways to this past self of mine, but in a lot of ways I also still do relate, and I can choose to live with a little bit more of an open grasp in this life and ask questions along the way instead of stating my firm belief and fact opinion about something that probably isn't actually a fact. So there's that line in the verse that says, Corey and I talk about death. That's what I do to keep my brain fresh. Mm-hmm. And that's where that song stemmed from, is Corey and I talking about death and the tyranny of certainty.
Nice. Okay, so we went way longer before playing a song than we normally do.
Yeah,
but
we got
so
right
it's time
into
to play
it.
the second song.
No, that was like awesome right off the bat. Okay, so we've laid this huge groundwork of like the mental state and life, like the background of like where you were when you created this album.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the album.
Yeah.
Like I said in the very beginning, I listened to it and I'm like, oh shit, this is art. How do you view it? Where did it come from for you? Where are you, or I guess we covered a lot of where it came from or like the mental background you were in. But like, what do you want to say about the album? Like if somebody was listening, like somebody who's listening right now and is going to go listen to this, what do you want to tell them about this album?
Yeah.
Why should somebody listen?
It was a extraordinary labor of love. I feel like I had so many ideas that I was afraid to even start to tackle going into this. The way I write as a songwriter is I kind of let things pile up. Like I let the well fill up until it has to overflow. I'm not a person that's like constantly writing every day. I'm just like collecting ideas, whether it's like production, sonic ideas, or like lyrical, heady, kind of more like what I want to talk about ideas until I can't keep them inside of me anymore. And so coming out of Podunk, there was this phase of not writing Warning High Cube, but letting the ideas bubble. And there was always this kind of aesthetic and tone that I knew I wanted the record to have, but I couldn't really explain it with words. And I wrote with this aesthetic influencing it. And the aesthetic also had a lot to do with where I wanted the story to go. And like I talked about earlier with the magnifying analogy of Podunk being this, Warning High Cube being like, let's step back and now talk about things honestly and truthfully based on how I'm experiencing them in my personal life. The story, which I'd love to talk about here, of just like, I guess the lore of where this is going.
Yes.
In the midst of all of this, I kind of already had mapped out the story. And so it was easy to write from that headspace. And then when it was all said and done and I took a step back and I like listened straight through for the first time and like had other people listening, I felt this aesthetic and this sound and this brand of Warning High Cube that I couldn't verbalize in the first place. All I could have told you was, I want it to be like organic, but also like chaotic. And
I think you nailed that. It definitely feels that way.
I couldn't like. There's much more nuance to that. If you listen through the 12 tracks, it goes so many places. It's like this entire world that I feel like I was gonna say unintentionally created, but no, there was so much intention. Like it was absolutely 100% intentionally created to make me feel like what I wanted it to feel like. And so much of that feeling can be wrapped up in 3 words that I actually gave in a recent interview that feel like they sum up the record well, is intricate, humanity, and gutted.
Ooh, what's gutted?
You know,
Just,
like
you know.
tearing something apart, tearing the guts out of something. Like when you gut a car, you're like taking the engine out, ripping all the pieces off.
Yeah, I mean, like, what does gutted mean to you in regards to music?
I thought you just wanted the definition of the word. I was like, it's weird that you're confused about that.
I've heard the word before.
Just like I am going to address, I'm not going to beat around the bush, and I'm going to say I saw a penis and vagina, and not say that, because I say that in the song Infinity Idiot.
Do you?
I say the word penis and I say the word vagina. I also say many other words that I put in there as like jokes initially, and then they stayed, and then they meant a lot to the song.
Infinity Idiot is a song, like that's the first song I heard from this record, I think. Or no,
Fall in Love,
we'd heard
right?
Fall
Yeah.
in Love, like you did that on the show.
Mm-hmm.
But then Infinity Idiot would be the next one that I really heard. And that song's fucking wild.
Yeah.
And from like your Instagram posts about it, like each one, because it's reels, it's shorter.
Yeah.
The song is so dramatically different between sections that like getting them in clips, I'm like, oh, this is that song. Oh,
Yeah.
that's the same song, but just kind of how it builds to the
Dude.
Infinity Idiot. Infinity Idiot. It's like that drop is so dramatically different from the build up to it and the screaming, the whole thing. I showed Jury the video, like it was, I don't know, however long ago that was.
Dropped in February. Yeah.
But I was like, look at this shit. I'm just like, and just the visuals in that video, it's like, that's the part where I'm like, oh, it's like dangerous or seditious.
yeah.
It's like, you said earlier, a good word, dark fantasy. It's like, what the fuck is this? It's crazy.
Thank you.
And along with the craziness comes some crazy titles,
Oh, yeah.
which I wanted to specifically ask about, what is it? Dog Water Power Trip Piranha?
You nailed it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What?
So the song title came about, I wrote that song with Corey Hale. Corey Hale Williams
Is this the
his
same
full
Corey
name.
you talked about death with?
It is. It is. He's one of my bestest boys, and he's himself is an incredible artist. He was my number 1 listened to artist last year on Spotify. But he has played in my band before, and I wanted to write a song with him. And so we got together and we were joking about the Spotify mixes, that if you start searching mix on Spotify, it comes up with all these personalized mixes that have weird ass names. And one of them was Dogs Water Mix. Dogs, plural, not even possessive, space water, space mix. And we're like, what the fuck is this? And like the playlist was sick. It was like Adrian Linker and Samia and Big Thief. Oh, that is Adrian Linker. It was just like cool, kind of more chill, folky singer-songwriter music. But we're like,
You know,
where
the
did
kind of
dogs
music-
water come
Kind
from?
of music you want to play
Yeah.
when your
Taking your
dog's
dog to
running
the
through the
water.
water.
I guess so. But yeah, I guess so. That makes the most sense. Sure.
It still makes no
And we
sense.
Yeah,
hadn't
it's still
written a
nonsense.
single lyric, and we were just like laying down a vibe, and I was like, this song's going to be called Dog Water. Dog Water. And then as I was writing the lyrics, we like finished producing the track for that song and humming some melodies. We didn't really talk about any or write any lyrics, and then I took it home and wrote all the lyrics. I honestly just finessed Dog Water into that song, like to make it make sense. And it was after I wrote the line was a rabid dog drowned in the water, power trip piranha feasted on a full stomach. Just the imagery of a dog drowning in the water and these piranhas eating it up. I was like, Dogwater's cool, but Dogwater Power Trip Piranha sounds crazy, bro. So yeah, there.
Take that, Spotify.
I guess it just was like, this is too strange to not title it this. I love this. Yeah, but that song is about how everything is corrupt.
And it's a different vibe when you get to it on the album. Now, full disclosure, I haven't gotten all the way through.
That's okay.
I'm only up to Sacrilegious 2.
Go. That's okay.
In full disclosure, I only sent you the album today.
Yeah, true.
Guys, it's okay. I'm only pissed off.
But I remember like going through, and then we hit that one, and immediately my first thought was, I was like, I don't know if this one's for me. But then after about a minute and a half, I was like, oh, it's a fucking banger. Cool. It got me, you know? Yeah. But it felt different. It felt like we took a turn all of a sudden.
And I attribute that turn to it being one of 2 co-writes on the album. Like, it's because Corey's brain is on that song, and that song would not exist if we were not in a room together, starting it together, having both of our influence on it. And so, yeah, we started playing this little acoustic diddle where he was playing this cigar box guitar thing that his friend made for him, and I was playing my Martin, and we just came up with that boom, 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 that like lick that you hear in it. And yeah, I think that's why. I also just, I mean, when I first started making music, it was just like on a guitar, and a lot of like my early songs of an old project were just like pretty chill singer-songwriter stuff. So I always like to kind of revisit that, and that song is it for the album. That's the like, we're gonna strip it back, even though it gets huge and big and rock later on.
Yeah, but it takes time to get there.
Totally,
it takes a little while to get there.
Slow burn.
Yeah, super solid.
Thank you. It's one of my favorites on the record.
But also, I guess the title of the album as a whole. Yeah. What does that mean?
Yeah, I told myself that I like wasn't really gonna explain this.
You don't have to.
But I think that means I'm not gonna explain it on like social media in a post. But I'll do it on this, because if you're listening and you're still here, you're gonna get to know. First of all, if you Googled Warning High Cube before I dropped this record, well, I'll say this. Since this record's released, if you Google Warning High Cube, it's mostly Moony stuff that comes up.
Nice.
King of SEO. But before that, you would have only found maybe 1 or 2, I guess, Reddit threads or something that...
Unlike Dogwater, Power Trip, Piranha, which there's a million things
exactly.
like that.
Yes. You would have learned that Warning High Cube is 3 words that you absolutely all have seen multiple times in your life before, and it's because they're on the back of so many semi-trucks. Specifically the green ones, sometimes the red and white ones, sometimes the blue ones, but always on the back of a green semi-truck, you will notice in massive, massive letters, like right in your face, Warning High Cube. No. And as you're driving on the side next to it...
No, you're making this shit up.
Nope.
There's
You'll
no
notice
way.
at the top, Warning High Cube. And what it literally means, yeah, Wesley's looking it up. Wait, let's see what shows up first, because I want to see how my SEO is doing. Whoa, it like pre-filled. Oh shit, it's gotten even better. Wait, pull that up. Look at this. First of all, that's what comes up right now. But then look at the second one. Warning High Cube trains.
A picture of Durham, North Carolina.
Keep scrolling down.
Trains magazine.
I mean,
okay, well, it's mostly Moony stuff.
Yeah,
but which is exciting for me to see this.
Maybe hit images or something.
Great. Except the number and the number one.
What is this? What is trains? What does that say?
Watching Trains Day, I saw a
Just
double
like
stack train of
trains.com? What
mostly.
is this?
Oh, I was almost there.
Oh, there it is.
Warning High Cube,
The second one.
and then you're the third.
Hey, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you've all seen it. It's on the back of semi-trucks.
Yeah, what does it mean?
Okay, so what it literally means is the cubic centimeters of this shipping freight container is higher than normal. Be careful when you're driving under bridges.
Oh, okay. Okay, fair enough.
Weird way to say it.
It is a weird way to say it.
Yeah.
And also, I've never noticed that, not one time in my entire life.
So here's the deal. I'd never noticed it, and then I noticed it,
Yeah.
and then I never unnoticed it.
Now you see it every time
And
you
now
get on the
I see
road,
it
huh?
every time I get on the road, and it became this joke between me and my wife and some friends of just like every time I passed by the Warning High Cube truck, it was like almost like the Tesseract emanating this power that I like would scream every time I drove past. But yeah, just I was kind of always thinking about it and like thinking, when am I going to see my next one? It's like when you buy a car and then you notice all the other cars that are the same on the road.
Yeah.
It was that situation. I took this thing that was completely insignificant and I gave it significance. I subjectively decided I'm going to give this meaning and realized that's how a lot of life works, is we take these things and decide to give them meaning and significance. So it kind of translates into nothing matters, but everything does. Everything really actually does matter. And we can decide on our own volition and power what we should give significance and value and volition to that influences the rest of our life. And so I got Warning High Cube tattooed right here on my arm before I decided to name my album this. And it's backwards because when I look in a mirror, I can read it. And it's kind of tucked between this snake and this cube and this vase with some fish on it. And then it has some of the like power emanating from around it. Just as a little self-reminder of like everything matters kind of vibe. And so if you hear at the very, very beginning of the record, you can hear me saying, Warning High Cube to me means nothing matters. And then at the very end of the record, the last thing you hear is Warning High Cube to me means nothing matters, but everything does. Mm-hmm. And that's how the record kind of starts and ends.
Does this have any inspiration from Ohana means family?
I feel like that's
That's Leland's. Did I do that last time I was on here?
The first time. I recall that you grew up on Disney.
Oh. Wait,
In
what
Singapore.
are you asking? How does that relate to Warning High Cube?
Warning High Cube to me means nothing matters. Ohana means family.
Oh, means. You're just saying means.
I guess
yes.
it's just the word means, but that's what it immediately reminded me of.
Me knowing that the word means exists related to the title of my record?
absolutely not.
No, not the title.
You figured it out.
Not the title. The explanations in the beginning. It just reminds me on the first time you were on here, you were talking about Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah, I mean, it has everything to do with that.
It seems like it's deep down there.
It has everything to do with Lilo and Stitch.
That's what I thought.
You mentioned...
Side note, I've never seen that show.
Oh, it's good. That show. Well, it is a show.
See?
There's also a show.
I
can sing the whole theme song.
You brought back up an old memory of mine.
Yeah.
Because you said when you buy a car, you start noticing it on the road. Mm-hmm. And I remembered in high school, I bought this car, $500. It was a 1993 Volkswagen Fox.
Hell yeah.
Wolfsenberg edition. Bring it up, Wesley. Coolest car.
Berg edition.
Wolfsenberg.
Berg edition.
And I bought it for $500, and it was the best car. And I loved this car. I loved it so much. It weighed about 300 pounds. You could like two dudes could probably pick this car up. It was tiny. 1993. Not the new ones. The new ones are just Jettas. They stopped making them for 20 years. It looks like it's like a Jetta, but smaller.
Yeah.
And I remember I never even heard of this car. Mine was black and stick shift, obviously.
Nice.
I
Yeah.
drove it hard. I had never even heard of this car until this guy was selling it to me. Mine was black.
Looks
obviously.
a lot like a Volvo Jetta.
Okay, it does not look like a Volvo. My next car after this one was a Volvo, and that car was trash and was ugly.
Ooh, is yours the convertible?
No. They turn these into rally cars very often, though. Like, if you add a rally car to that search, and because that's what my dream still to this day is to eventually get another one and turn it into a rally car. None of these are good.
There's something about the aesthetic
you don't
of
have
this car.
Fox in the search. You just have VW. It's a VW Fox. Anyways, I'm going way off on a tangent for no reason, except for that triggered. And I remember as soon as I got this car that I'd never even heard of, I saw so many on the road.
Yeah.
And it made me viscerally mad. I was so stoked that I got this random European car that I'd never even heard of.
Yeah.
And then they're everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was so upset. And 16 years old, just fucking furious, driving through the neighborhood. I saw 3 on the way to school today.
I'm not special.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah. There have definitely been some fans and friends that have sent me, DM'd me a picture of the freight truck being like, oh.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna see it.
Yeah.
Well, because I haven't explained that,
Well, it's like-
and then people find it themselves, which is exciting.
Well,
That's awesome.
it's like you put advertisement for your album on every truck in
planned
America.
I planned this all along. But yeah, that me then deciding to name the record that kind of helped influence the world of the cube that I have found myself in within the record and the kind of the story that goes alongside of it. So yeah, the shipping
Do we
freight.
get to know about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
What does the cube have to do with the vagina?
Okay.
A phrase I never thought I'd say.
Allow me to explain and buckle up.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna share kind of how I put this together. So
Yeah.
I released the album first on vinyl and Bandcamp on the day of the eclipse. So that was April 8th. And I spent the whole marketing budget to make sure that moon went over the sun at the right moment so that I could release my album. While you were all looking up in the skies, I was looking down on my phone to make sure it released on time. But yeah, I it's funny. I like the marketing around when I dropped my record was so kind of like eclipse centered and focused because Moony and the moon passing in front of the sun and my debut album and all that stuff. I only realized 2 weeks before it dropped that it was on the same day as the eclipse. So 2 weeks
wow.
before I pivoted my marketing to like center, because I'd already planned April 8th months before that. And then suddenly my mother-in-law was like, oh, April 8th, so you did it on the day of the eclipse. That's smart. I was like,
You're like,
yeah,
yeah, obviously,
I'm a genius.
I've planned this for years.
No, but this is the first time I've said that publicly. So yeah, I did not plan that, but it was a very, very awesome accident. But I released it to give people the opportunity to experience it as it was meant to be experienced, which is all at once in one sitting.
During the eclipse.
Yeah, exactly, I guess. But, you know, over the next few months, as the record slowly trickled out on DSPs, I wanted people that wanted it to have the experience of listening to it all at once. Kind of like, think of it like watching a movie only in theaters before it hits streaming a few months later. This felt like to me a way to preserve like the sacredness of what the album is to me and like really value it as art. Like if people like pay to play kind of like if you want to hear what I spent so much of my last year and a half working on and like pouring so much time and effort and money and energy and love and creating this entire 12-song world that leads you through this other like visual story world, you can have that right now if you want it. And then because I still wanted to kind of play the game with socials and DSPs, DSPs, if you're listening, that's just Spotify, Apple Music, all the places you stream music. I don't know
Digital
if I know
streaming
it.
platform.
That's it. Yeah. For those outlets, then I could kind of handhold people through the story of it. Because when you drop something all at once, you kind of, if you know, unless it's a movie, if it's something like this where it's an art form where I'm dropping songs, but then there's a story involved, and I can't really like give you all at once unless I had a fucking movie. More on that later. To go alongside of it, then I'm gonna have the opportunity to handhold you, then to take you through it. So I decided after I drop it all at once, then I'm going to release the album in 3 distinct parts, like 3 acts. And those acts are I'm growing a garden and feeding the whole world, 8 years of toiling earth, and then the whole thing, Warning High Cube. And to me, releasing it that way also can take you through the story that way. And so we started at the end. I'm growing a garden and feeding the whole world are 4 songs at the end of the record. And so visually, everything I'm releasing with that is the end of the story. I'm in a garden. I've grown this feast in this dining room table behind me. If you look at the artwork for that little EP of songs, have you guys seen the artwork of that? Can we pull that
Can you
up
bring that
just
up, Wes?
for reference as we're listening to this? I'm sitting in this like it's that middle one right there in the top. Oh, damn it. He has to log into Instagram. Anyways, I'm sitting in this forest, but I have this feast behind me, and it's like this spread of vegetables and fruits and all these sorts of nuts, and it's called I'm Growing a Garden and Feeding the Whole World. And so you are led to believe that I have grown this feast in my own garden, and I'm ready to like offer it to the world. And I have like found my place in this world that I'm in this newfound realm that I'm in. Now, 8 years of toiling earth. That's the second part that I'm releasing, that I have released. It's called 8 years of toiling earth because you then learn, have spent, okay, oh, there it is.
Okay.
So that's part 3. I'm growing a garden and feeding the world. Keep in mind, we're going backwards through the story. So I'm going to tell you guys this backwards, but then we'll like flip it up and discover the chronology of it. I've been saying since the beginning, don't let chronology fool you, because I'm not saying it straight up, but like I'm not telling this story chronologically. So I've grown my garden. You can see I have a sword next to me. I have a shell, which is the same shell you saw in Infinity Idiot. I have a toucan
Shell?
up there, like the seashell that's next to my elbow.
Oh, there we go.
Are the-
Okay, yeah.
Are the tracks in a different order on Spotify from what I was listening to?
I don't know.
Because I was listening to the SoundCloud link Ryan sent me.
The SoundCloud link has the whole album. This is just the end of the album.
Gotcha. Oh, yeah, that's right, because it's just this part.
Yep.
Right.
Wait, are you releasing it backwards?
That's what I
That's
just
what he just said, that, yeah.
Yeah, I got distracted.
You're good.
Right.
Yeah, so this is the end of the story. Like everyone saw this a couple months ago when it came out. By the way, peel back the curtain. We're recording this before the album is dropped, so I'm having to talk as if like you guys have already heard the whole album, you people listening. So yeah, you've seen a few months ago that I was already in this garden-esque landscape. Then, because we're starting at the end, the next part that releases, if we're doing 3 parts, it's part 2. It's called 8 Years of Toiling Earth, and all of the visuals associated. Wesley, can I airdrop you the cover
Special
for this?
preview.
Well, it's not because
We've never had
people have already
somebody
seen
airdrop
it.
before.
I said special preview.
It's so special, goddammit.
It's special.
Airdrop incoming. I see Ryan's airdrop. Oh, here it is.
Oh, that went to me.
I've sent it to both of y'all.
Oh, I can see it too. Okay, yeah, I saw this on the SoundCloud.
All y'all communists in your iPhones.
Do you not have an iPhone?
No, absolutely not.
Android?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Objectively better.
You know what? That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I just...
With your weird fucked up
I
personality.
would love to get on board with the iPhone. Every time they release a new one, I try. I like read through the specs. I look at the things. I'm
yeah.
like, is it better?
I mean,
And it just never matches up.
no. I'm just too deep in the ecosystem at this point.
Right. I don't want to get trapped.
Okay, so
Oh, here we go.
then we have the cover for part 2, which is called 8 Years of Toiling Earth. And if you look here,
It's a cube.
what I am also everything I'm explaining right now is more clearly understood in the short film I made that is going to release alongside of this album that may already be out. More on that in a second, like I said earlier. But do you guys remember when I was falling
In love?
in love
Yeah.
in the air?
Mm-hmm.
Keep that in mind, because perhaps this is where I fell.
I just want to say, I don't think I've ever seen a picture of you that looked anything like any other picture of you.
Whoa.
This could be a different. This could not be you.
Yeah.
Like straight up, like everything, every time.
We are all Moony.
We are all many.
And so here, all you see is like this barren landscape, the same cube you saw in part 3, and this sword in front of me. And we are led to believe, based on more things that come out with this record, that I take this sword and basically till and toil the earth until I grow that garden that you saw in part 3, where I can feed the whole world. So I have to like figure out how to grow my own garden with nothing but the shirt on my back and this sword and this strange cube that's here with me and this toucan that's flying in the sky above me and that's here with me in the garden as well. And that was in the Infinity Idiot cover.
So then
Wasn't
is
the
part-
toucan in Fall in Love too?
Not in Fall in Love. It made its first appearance in Infinity Idiot.
I've been seeing that toucan.
So is part 3 like the resolution?
Uh-huh.
Part 2 is you doing the work.
Uh-huh. But
So is part 1 then like the dark of your soul?
part 1 is where it all comes together. Okay, so and keep in mind, like, people don't realize I'm giving this story to them backwards as it's going.
Right.
So here we go to part 1, which is Warning High Cube, like the full record. Bear with me. You remember whenever I was in the Podunk Forest? In the Podunk Forest, there's this snake wrapped around me.
Yes.
If you've read the comic sitting here next to me, you learn that the snake wraps itself around my neck, starts to suffocate me, and then I start to sink into the earth. And then as I'm sinking into the earth, these hands come up, they grab me, and they pull me into this like realm below the forest where I'm falling into the sky. And so that's how we got into the Fall in Love realm, which we talked about over a year ago at this point.
Crazy.
What this record reveals, and what it reveals at the end of the story, which is actually the beginning of the story, is that in the moment the snake starts to wrap around my neck and suffocate me, a alter ego of myself comes and kidnaps me from the forest. Well, knocks me over the head, somehow knocks me out and like puts me under and brings me back to his lair. Do you recall the Infinity Idiot album artwork? That red lair that I'm sitting in? You can pull that up on Spotify
let's
really
see
quickly.
The red layer.
That's where the
The vagina sort of overwrote my memory. That's all I recall now.
Yeah,
yeah. That was
Okay,
what was
so-
showing with the okay
right
yeah,
here.
yeah.
So
Oh,
I
yeah.
am
That-
taken into this lair, and in this lair, which I call the centroid of it all.
Is that hand drawn?
No, that's a photo.
It's a photo.
It's kind
That's
of
a
this
photo?
This
It
screen
It looks
is,
like art.
well, this screen is kind of crunching the image in a weird way to make it look drawn.
It is true. It
Okay.
is a very contrasty screen.
Yeah. In this lair, I am then hooked up to this cube-like machine where I am put into this matrix type of thing to make me think that the snake is wrapping around my neck and that hands are pulling me into the earth and that I'm falling into the sky and that I'm hitting the earth and that there's this barren landscape where there's a cube and a sword and I have to toil the earth for 8 years and then I have to learn how to grow the garden and feed the world and feed myself. You basically learn at the end that like I did it to myself. I put myself under this matrix type spell from the point where I blacked out in the forest to now where you're seeing me at peace in this new world, which is not actually real. It's an illusion. And so me and Mother Earth's vagina is that moment kind of where I'm being put under to dream up the new world. And that is located in that like red lair room. So I did it to myself.
So okay, in the red layer room, that's where you're hooked up to that. But the red layer room, yeah, is that's the real world.
That is the real world. And that's what I am calling the centroid of it all. So if you remember far back in February when I was rolling out Infinity Idiot, I would make references to like the centroid of it all, or like on tour with Teddy at Night in those promotional materials, I would say, meet me in the centroid of it all. I'm like saying, meet me in the room where I have myself kidnapped with chainmail over his head in the corner, because I was wearing chainmail a lot on that tour.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of like start
Which
to give
is
you hints at
in the
what's going
Infinity
on.
Idiot video as well, right? The chainmail.
The chainmail is not in the Infinity Idiot video. It's in this short film that I made. So I made this short film that is the length of the record that tells you kind of this almost theatrical version of this story. I made it with Joey Broadnax, who was one of my dream collaborators. I found out about him well before moving to Nashville and like said in my mind, I'd love to work with that guy one day. And then we became friends, and then we made this like short film together. I mean, the record is like 50 minutes long, so it's this 50-minute film
which is a huge undertaking.
Right. That's a lot.
It was a bitch. Yeah. It's pretty. Have y'all ever seen Beau is Afraid? Speaking of Ari Aster and Hereditary and
No, I don't
think
Midsommar, it was his third movie. Great film. It has Joaquin Phoenix. It's not as like horror as his first two movies. It's more drama, psychological, thriller vibes. But there's this distinct moment of that film where you kind of like step out of the storyline and are given this like 30-minute sequence of this like literal theatrical stage presentation of like what's happening in the grand scheme of the story, told in almost this like middle school theater aesthetic and way. And that was like the best, I guess, reference that Joey and I talked about going into creating this film is like,
I've seen that in something else.
Yeah, I feel like the trailer for that movie was more popular than the actual movie was. So maybe like in the trailer they have a lot of that scene, and I feel like that was circling around when the trailer dropped. But the movie's great. But that was kind of a frame of reference for us as we started talking about how do we want to tell this story. And so what we did is we took the 3 parts and we did 3 nonstop uncut takes of the like what's going on. So in part 1 you see me coming I don't want to give it away, but I guess the album's out and maybe this video is out. In part 1 you see me in the lair. You see like the kidnapped version of myself there. You see me plug that person into this like cube thing. And then in part 2, you see me wake up in this world and kind of learn how to wield and yield this sword. And I'm very confused as I'm first in that world. And then I kind of become more at peace and like powerful within that world at the end. And then in part 3, I'm in that garden-esque landscape, which is actually like a very dead forest. There's just like one table set with a lot of plump food where I'm like now fully, I'm not questioning where I am anymore, but I'm like fully at peace with where I am. So that will be told and like released in chronological. It'll just be released as like one big full thing. But that kind of walks you through it. And it's very like, you have to look for it to understand it. We didn't like spoon feed audiences with exactly what's going on. A lot of it is like metaphorical, and we wanted to do one take, so we like kept mistakes and like we kept the rawness of it.
Wait,
just
one take
as it
for
is.
the
one
whole...
one take for each part. So
Okay,
each part is 4 songs. So it's it's like 4 songs, and
So is it also like acted, or like is it dialogue, or is it just listen to the album with it, or
it's
or the
just
audio
like
over
me
it?
acting over the audio playing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Almost like a what's the dark side of the when you listen to
Oz.
Dark Side of Oz, right? When you're watching it, but you mute it and listen to the audio of Dark Side.
I have
You
no
know what I'm
idea
talking
what you're
about?
talking about.
Watching Wizard of Oz. So Dark Side of
Okay.
the Moon,
So
Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
yeah,
Wait, you never
you
heard
wait
of
for
this?
the third lion roar
of MGM,
of the MGM logo,
and then you
on
press
the Wizard,
play on the
sorry, on
album.
the Wizard of Oz.
Of the
I
Wizard of
didn't
Oz.
mention that part.
That's important.
And then you
factor.
hit play.
on the album, and it coincides
It syncs up.
like eerily.
Did they try to do that?
From everything I understand, no.
Whoa.
But
You
stoners
haven't
think they
heard
did.
of this? It's actually
Never heard
incredible
of
to
that.
experience.
I want
It
to
is
do
pretty
that
cool.
now.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
I mean, the best moment is when it comes to color.
Oh.
When it turns to color, and that's the exact second the song "Money" starts, and it's just like that register.
I have to do this tonight.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
How have you never heard of this?
Never in my life.
Oh
heard of
my
this.
God.
yeah,
Dark
all
Side
of a
of
sudden you
Oz.
see the yellow brick road in color,
Yeah.
and it's like
Yeah, with the red cash
boom,
register
boom.
sounds. Oh, it's so good.
Whoa. Okay.
But that's what it's reminding me of as you're explaining it. I'm like, you're listening to this music, but you're also this story.
Yeah. And something that happens in that short film is the first thing you see is me coming out of this like makeshift vagina looking thing that we created in this like prop with props. And you kind of are led to believe, like, even though I just explained that I put myself in kind of this matrix trance, before that even happens, I'm like emerging from it myself. Like the real me, the me in the lair, like the Infinity Idiot version of me in the quote real world, that still is somewhat of a like metaphor and illusion, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think I explained that like dog shit terribly because I was
I believe you
a little bit
dog
distracted.
Water power trip.
Yeah, I was a little bit distracted, realizing that we need like visual cues as I'm explaining it. But
at this point, like you said, like this stuff's gonna be out. People can.
It's
can
gonna be
watch, yeah.
out, and like part of the whole idea of this is like if you want to figure it out, you can. But it's also not like I've never at any point really like spoon feeding anyone any of this story. It's
Right, because the
It's
flip
just
side of it is
there
also like
if you
if you
want
just
it.
enjoy listening to it, listen to it.
Totally. So
Right.
like with Podunk, this comic book was what went alongside and kind of gave you the storyline for that era and to fall in love. And then for this one, I wanted it to be something different because I don't want to just do the same thing every time. So I did this little short film thing, and we'll see what I do next because I've got ideas. There's also a lot to find in the vinyl packaging. If you've bought the vinyl for Warning High Cube, I've hidden some things in that I created this whole language with Jordan Weatherby that you can see things spelled out in that language throughout the packaging that say different messages, and then I've hidden some clues for where we're going from here.
Jordan Weatherby's a graphic designer, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Artist, graphic designer, yeah.
I ran into him at Gabrielle Grace's CD release show.
Cool, yeah.
Or CD release, whatever it was.
Uh-huh.
Album release.
Yeah.
And when I met him, I was talking to him about our podcast, and he's like, wait, is that the like drunk podcast?
Like either y'all or him told me that. That's funny.
Yeah, he was like, I've picked up like multiple friends from that show and given them rides because they like
spilled my
they
water.
went into some basement and got drunk talking about music.
We have had some drunk episodes, but it's not
That's
that
awesome.
comen, all right?
Hey, maybe next time I'm back.
Yeah, if you're in a drinking phase.
I know. I'm like, I just started my
Yeah.
sober phase.
We just missed you.
You just missed me.
Well, this is probably a good time to play the next song. What's the next song we're hearing?
So the next song it's called X, just the letter X, and I want to
It's
play.
about Twitter.
It's about Twitter.
Obviously.
I want to play the version that you'll only ever be able to hear it here. I don't know if I'll ever record this outside of here, but when I first wrote this song, this is the version I wrote, and then I rewrote it for the album. The album version is really upbeat, rock, and it has a whole different bridge, but I want to play the original version. So this is like the more devastating version of this song with a much more devastating bridge. So.
Polarized, staring at another colorized picture of you. Is it right? Wishing we start over with the divots clear in view. I'm another boy to keep your heart warm. Line us up and call me out. There are many ways to say I love you, circling this roundabout. I'm wasting time with you on my mind. In the past it hurt a little harder, borderline hostility. Did it last just so I could remember all the things you did to me? They weren't all bad. I'm not insane. They weren't all sad. Most things were good. They were good. breathing underwater, holding it together, kissing her, she's my wife. I think it's another way to distract my mind from all the weight I'm under. Mother and a father, a sister for a brother. I could almost see it, the beauty of being tied down to your best friend. And it feels that way before it starts to crumble. You made me good. 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 Better to remember breathing underwater, holding it together, kissing her, she's my wife. I think it's another way to distract my mind from all the weight I'm under. Mother and a father, a sister for a brother. I could almost see it, the beauty of being tied down to your best friend. And it feels that way before it starts to crumble.
Was there anything you were like hoping to say about the album we haven't covered yet?
I know I've been talking a lot about the themes and the story. Just musically, it does feel like this full kind of culmination of everything I love about music. There's moments of very kind of symphonic, string orchestrated parts that one of my bestest friends, Collins McLaughlin, arranged a lot of the strings that you're hearing throughout the record. There's moments of, like we talked about before, like very acoustic driven, mandolin, banjo, guitar moments. There's moments of just pure rock and roll. There's moments of more like rap, sing-songy type of vibes. It feels like it kind of is multifaceted in where it goes musically and genre-wise, but I kind of feel like I've been doing that with Moony for a while now, but this kind of just puts it all in the longest body of work that I've worked on. So I do want to just state that I'm very proud of how the music sounds, and obviously could not have done it without Michael Guillo, who co-produced this whole thing with me, and yeah, just is like the perfect collaborator to understand and hone in a lot of my vision and ideas and that aesthetic that I was talking about that I couldn't explain or describe. In a lot of ways, Michael is able to like put words to it and put practice to it as we're like working together. So yeah, he really helped hone the sound of this record. We did a listening party for it a couple months ago after the vinyl dropped, and I got to have Michael come up and join me at the end and just reiterate to everyone that like Moony is and sounds the way Moony does, largely hugely because Michael believed in me since day one. So Michael, if you're listening, I love you, and everyone should go have him mix your songs because he's primarily a mix engineer, and I am lucky enough to have him work with me on his production side, but he mostly mixes. So yes, Michael is amazing, and the music of this record I'm so proud of. It's the first piece of Moony work with all live drums on it. That's a good fun fact. A lot of my songs have programmed drums before this. They sound real, like they're real samples. You wouldn't know the difference. But for this record, I wanted to have a very live kit for most of, if not every one of these songs. So yeah, I think there's like 2 songs that ended up being programmed. I'll let you try to figure those out, but most of the record is live drums, which is exciting for me as a primarily drummer.
Yeah, and I imagine you played the drums.
Yes, yeah, I did.
Very cool.
Yeah, all the instruments you hear are me and Michael, besides Collins on the strings like I talked about.
Yeah.
Oh, and then Rob Vincent played keys on Warning High Cube, and then Corey played that cigar box guitar on and did some extra programming on Dogwater. But yeah, the brunt of it is Michael and I.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds great. Like musically, but also like sonically, like the mixes are super solid.
Michael's incredible. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah.
And it's such like, I think one of the things that stands out is it's such like I was kind of saying in the beginning, like an artistic vision. Like it's the just like the distortion on your vocal, the way it hits and the way it like you can tell that it's produced and mixed in a way that feels like this is a statement. It's statement music. It's not middle of the road. And one of like my favorite producers is Rick Rubin. More for the philosophy than anything, because like I wouldn't say like my favorite albums were produced by Rick Rubin. That's a funny thing. If you ask me who's my favorite producer, I will say Rick Rubin.
Yeah.
Are my favorite albums produced by Rick Rubin? No. But like how he thinks and explains his ideas and just his whole like persona, that's my favorite. And so like I fully agree with his philosophy, and I think his albums are great. It's just like doesn't happen to be the bands that are my favorite.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he says like great art should divide the audience and like people should love it or hate it, and when like everybody kind of likes it, you probably haven't gone far enough. And whether that's right or not, that's definitely his philosophy, and to me that definitely lines up with Moony as a project. It feels very like there is gonna be some people who hate that music, who hate the visuals, who do not get it whatsoever, who think putting lore to songs is stupid. Like there's just like you are doing. So I just feel like that's something you're doing really right. Is that like there's a lot to hate.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's the best encouragement I've gotten since starting Moony. So thank you. I know exactly what you mean. I'm serious though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, before I move on,
Yes.
one more person I forgot to mention is Corin Doobie, who played the French horn on the song Poltergeist and also wrote that with me. So that's the other co-write is me, Michael, and Corin wrote that song. So I don't want to forget to mention Corin. I love you, Corin.
Awesome. Before Jury gets to one very important question.
Yeah. Turtles.
I
We'll
wanted
see
to
if this lands.
I wanted to pull something back from earlier. You mentioned very briefly at the very beginning. I don't know if this will go somewhere cool or not, but you had mentioned like purity culture in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And I'd be dealing with that.
Yeah.
And how does that factor into the songs? Or is there a specific song that's about that, or is that just a theme? Or
there's a
like,
specific
talk to me
song.
about that.
It's called Aphrodisiac, and
That makes sense.
The chorus says, "Just tell me if you can relate to this as a man having grown up in the church. Baby, can I tell you that I'm in love? No, I'm in something else. If I want to hold your body under covers, some aphrodisiac. I'm hard, but I'm not myself." And that's the chorus. And the hook of that song says, "I'm hard, but I'm not myself," over and over again. Which, when I wrote that, I was a little bit like, I don't know if I can say this. But I feel like, so it's interesting, when I wrote that song, it came from a conversation I was having with my wife of, I wonder what things would have been like if we met in high school. And the consensus was we would have quickly fallen in love with each other because we believe we were soulmates, made for each other, match made in heaven. Like any point of our lives, she's always been my type based on what I know from her past and what I know of her now. But we both agreed that because of the culture and environment that we were in, we would have fallen really quickly. And there would have been a lot more shame involved in our relationship because we would have obviously been attracted to each other and like wanted to be physical with each other in whatever ways that they tell you not to be, whether it's the littlest of things or the most of things, in the culture that we both grew up in. So that's where I wrote that song from, is just putting myself back in my high school shoes, thinking about falling in love with my now wife back then, what that would have maybe been like, and like the shame and guilt I would have felt under the surface of this like true love that I felt. And then when I finished writing it, I realized, oh wait, I just sang about like, this is just me with everyone else I ever like dated in that time frame of being like 15 to 24. And that's kind of the purity culture that I was in when I was dating. And like, I relate Does that make sense? Like I wrote it thinking about a like not real version of myself in a specific situation, and then I finished writing it and I was like, oh wait, that's actually just like how I was in so many relationships, of like feeling like a piece of shit if I crossed some boundary that we probably didn't have to set in the first place. But hindsight's 2020.
What like I'm hard, but I'm not myself. I get the I'm hard part. And I get the
Really?
getting it right now. Just kidding.
Whoa.
But the I'm not myself part, I feel like that's a lot more open to interpretation. Do you want to elaborate on what you mean by that, or is it meant to just be open to interpretation?
I think all my songs are meant to be open for interpretation, and I rarely spell it out. Except on this podcast, y'all. That's why I like coming on here. Sometimes I want to spell it out.
I like we're the Spell It Out podcast.
Yeah.
That's what they call us.
Yeah.
How could this happen to me? I made my mistakes.
First button press of the episode.
Yes.
That one's just labeled emo, and I was like, I'm going for it.
That's awesome. I think the not myself line just is saying, if I were to feel fully like myself, I don't think I would feel guilt and shame, because that doesn't seem good or right or pure. And we talk about being pure in a sense of like not doing XYZ. And I think it's more about where your heart is, and if you're respecting the other person, and if it's mutual, and if it's consensual, and if you're not making decisions that are risky or hurtful. So that's where that not myself is like, why am I feeling turned on and bad about it?
Yeah, you know that what you just said about like consent, like things being consensual. So my fiance and I just had a meeting, or the first only probably meeting with our the guy who's going to marry us. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. And he was saying, he brought up, so he's actually like, I don't know if he's a pastor. I think he has a different name, because I think he does stuff with the Anglican Church.
Well, if it helps, I am an ordained minister.
What?
Oh.
Since when?
It's actually been 10 years. I actually got an email recently.
Whoa.
Yep, that's me.
I actually got an email recently celebrating my decade of being an ordained minister.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Why are
so
you
if
marrying
you need
me?
someone to marry
Do
you,
you get anything free? Like
Like-
Chick-fil-A, it's like, here's a birthday
that's a good
coupon.
question.
For an
Well, if-
ordained minister, what would it be?
well, I never paid the extra $20 to get the card to prove it.
Yeah.
Because it's only $10 to register.
Yeah.
So.
Had
I
I
don't know.
known,
But
had
maybe
I
I should look into
known,
that.
had I known,
You get a free invite to a wedding of someone you don't know.
That's something you don't know.
wow,
Yeah.
I had no idea. You
A
should be
decade.
marrying
10
me.
years now.
Anyway, our guy, like, I'll just to simplify it, like, he does church stuff, but also, like, I think he's, like, very socially liberal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he was talking about, like, he doesn't like purity culture,
Yeah.
but he also, he does think that sex is best for people. He's like, I think it is ideal that people would have sex in marriage. That's the ideal. But he thinks that purity culture has it all backwards, and that like you should start with like consensualness, mutuality. I think he said consensuality. Do you say consensuality? Is that a word? Whatever.
I don't know.
Consensual sex and mutuality and those things as like that. Just basically, purity culture has it like all backwards.
Totally.
And I don't know like the truth. I don't have like a definitive statement about any of these things.
Oh, I very much do.
Okay.
I very, very much am anti-purity culture. I think it is a toxic, borderline evil environment that teaches young girls that they are garbage.
Yeah.
And I have seen my wife go through it, and I have seen other people that I know go through it, and there's no good that comes of it. None.
I agree.
It is absolute bullshit and should not be taught. And the fact that churches teach it so strongly is one of the reasons why America hates Christians right now.
No. Hey.
I fucking
Preach.
hate purity culture.
Preach.
Well, that
Yeah. Okay. Hey, that's all we have for tonight. No,
Hey,
no,
goodbye.
dude. Hey, I agree. And I do.
Why
feel,
does that feel like a worship song?
And I do. There's like, I do feel like it affects and harms women more than it does men, and that was part of the intrigue of me writing this song, is because I wanted to just give my perspective of like what I went through personally as a man. So, you know, I don't know what people are gonna think when they hear it. People in my Discord that have like bought the album and heard it, and I guess people that it's out now for everyone
You
listening.
have a Discord?
Oh, bro, my
didn't even
Discord
know.
is so active. You got to hop on.
That's
that.
the only social media I use. I
Hell
should
yeah.
absolutely join your Discord.
A lot of people have said this is their favorite song on the record. So I don't know if they know what I'm talking about, but
They do now.
I got to rewind just a little bit because I was saying a thing.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm
you got
sorry,
me all
yeah.
riled up. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, we're not in disagreement even, except the way it was phrased sounds like we are, which bothers me.
Oh, I
but
see.
I was saying, I'm like, I don't have a definitive statement. I don't know what I was going to say next. It's lost forever now, and it doesn't matter.
Sorry.
But no, it's fine. I just want to point out that I don't disagree with you. Although the strength with which you said your comments makes me feel like I need to counterbalance.
You've known me for a long time, Ryan. This is how I be.
Yeah, but also, and if I said something that strong, you would want to counterbalance me,
100%.
and this is just
yeah,
who we are.
Exactly.
So maybe I just want to weigh in. I just want to be like, whoa, I don't want that to make me sound like I'm the let's go purity culture guy.
no, I didn't feel that from you.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like you were even rebutting what he was saying. You were just speaking your
Yeah.
opinion.
I
in
just
that
heard the word
moment.
purity culture and I was like, motherfucker.
Yeah.
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 No, I would add to what you said or what y'all said. We were saying like it hurts women even more than it hurts guys. I think that's true, but I also think it hurts guys more than we know.
Oh, yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah.
100%.
I totally.
I think it hurts everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm not fully in disagreement with all of the things of purity culture. Like I think the thing that to me that makes it more complicated is I don't think it's 100% just like, I don't think it's opposite of truth. Mm-hmm. I think it's like a weird fucked up.
Yeah. It's twisted truth.
It's twisted, but I'm like, there is something really good in it. So the exact opposite of purity culture would be like, everyone should fuck everyone all the time. Why are we even talking, us three in this room right now? We should all be just having sex in front of these cameras and publicizing it to the world. That would be ideal. Like that would be the
episode title. We should all be fucking.
like that would be the straight opposite of purity culture. The problem is that it's like, well, there's something really good. Like you two are married and I'm on my way.
Not
like,
to each other.
Yes, to
Yet.
different.
Yet. You're an ordained minister.
I am.
Just wait
Make
to
it
see
happen.
where the night
Make
goes.
it happen. A few more White Claws and you never know. But it's like at least all three of us in this room think the idea of like having a monogamous relationship with a specific person and keeping sex with that person and others, like
Yeah, it's generally chill.
there's like core truth. Like there's a lot of what purity culture is that we probably agree with, but the thing that we hate about purity, or that you don't like about I don't like about purity culture, is I don't know. I don't even want to define anymore. But there, yeah, it's just complicated because
Yeah,
it's funny because as soon as you like
Yeah.
attacked it that hard, then I'm like, okay, but
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
want to all be fucking everything all the time
Yeah.
either.
Like
but
there's
it does fuck us up.
Yeah, and I think your word twisted kind of nails it on the head. And that even, like songs like Infinity Idiot, where I'm saying, I'm talking about you, talking about me, talking about us, talking about we, talk about lust, talk about pre-coming and sex, cover your eyes, run for your life. I saw a penis and vagina, but I'm fine. It wasn't my wife's. Wish that you grow a pair. This is just life. It's those subject matters that I feel like are blending into each other, where it's like, we have this very twisted view of sex as a society from both the conservative standpoint and the like overly conservative and overly liberal standpoint. And it's so easily twisted from both sides in culture. But there's truly a like doable, healthy, livable way to approach those subjects. And I have like been in process of breaking those down within my own life and finding that truth and then singing about them in these different ways. But yeah, I agree that there is this middle ground, but there is poison, and like capital P poison, in the like twisted purity culture side of things, and even in the let's fuck in this room right now side of things. Like, let's avoid the poison, y'all, and be good.
Well, and what you just said, almost like my little light bulbs, almost like maybe the best that we can do is just figure out, like what you said, just kind of like for ourselves. Like maybe the best I can do is to figure out, like, for me, where's my line's going to be and what's my what do I think is right.
Yeah.
When it comes to sexuality, because
and I think learning
I just can't figure it out
from
for
other
everybody.
people, because we can't figure it all out on by ourselves, and we have to have outside voices and friends and family and people that have experienced things different from us.
Yeah.
And learn where the different pitfalls are. And I think the only way you can figure things out for yourself is if you get multiple viewpoints and hear multiple different sides of things. Because we all thought we had it figured out whenever we were in the church, and then we started hearing different viewpoints, and that's what made us change our mind. And so, we are where we are right now and think the way we do about purity culture and sex and all the other nuances of life. And I hope that we can only learn and grow from here. I don't think we're ever going to revert back to this like old way of thinking. I think that's impossible for me personally, at least with this specific subject. But I do hope that I can still have the like open, ever evolving perspective, open to perspective changing mindset with it all, with other nuances that are within it, because we're all figuring it out.
Yeah. But sometimes don't you miss being 19 and knowing how everything works?
Oh,
That was a good time.
yeah.
But with that,
We do have one final question. Now, if you had to choose,
and you do.
Now, the important thing about this question is the answer must not come from here.
And everybody listening, we've done this with Seth 2 other times, and Jury is about to come up with the greatest question of all time, and I'm very excited to hear what it is. Totally
We'll see how this goes.
Improv. But currently he's pointing to his head, representing
it must
thinking.
come from here.
He's pointing to Mother Earth's vagina.
Must come from.
Now, if you had to choose.
And you do.
And you do. Okay, now what it actually means coming from your heart and not your head is that I want an answer quickly. I don't want you to think about it too long. This question's a little more complicated.
Not like how he has thought so long about this question.
So long. If you had to choose.
And you do.
And you do. Given the current political and cultural turmoil in this country, if you were given ultimate power, what one piece of legislation or law would you enact or retract to set us on the right track?
Taco Tuesday!
You
Taco
heard it
Tuesday.
here first, folks. Taco Tuesday.
I think they did that in the Lego movie. Will Ferrell's villain character. That was his enactment, is Taco Tuesday. So I will be the villain, Will Ferrell, in the Will Ferrell.
Whoa.
In the Lego movie.
Fair enough. You have it here first. The first answer to the 3rd episode question.
That was a good question.
Yeah, that was a really good question.
I only knew
Maybe that should be the new
first
question.
few words, and I just figured it out from there.
Yeah. It was good.
Wow, what was the
profound.
first few words you had to go on?
Given the current turmoil in this country.
That's good.
And then you just rolled after
Yeah,
that?
I was like, we'll just see what
that was
happens.
impressive.
That was
It
really
seemed
good.
rehearsed,
Yeah, that was
so.
really good.
Thank you guys for having me.
No,
For the
thank
third
you for
time.
coming back.
Yeah, this is always so fun.
Oh, it's always a great time. Now, before we get out of here, though, where can all the people find you?
Find me on social media at Seth is Moony. Be sure to go listen to my record Warning High Cube, and be sure to come see me on tour this October. If I have not announced that, I'm about to. And yeah, I'm headlining all across America, kind of, but not really. Half of America.
Well, as always, guys, thanks for coming to hang out. You guys are awesome, and we'll see y'all next time.
Baby, can I tell you that I'm in love? Oh, I'll be something else if I wanna hold your body undercover. Crossing a line so aphrodisiac.